Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
But the key question here, I want you guys to ask yourself, is how many times in the past week did you have to sugarcoat the word no? How many times in the past week did you have to sugarcoat the word no? Meaning that you had to pre-frame with some shit, you had to pre-frame with something so that it sounded fancy versus just being real and direct and having the ability to flat out say no. We constantly do this, and we find ourselves not having the guts to flat out tell people no in regards to life and to, and I went through a thing with some guys in our group about this, and one guy's like, I never tell anybody no. I always tell everybody no. I don't sugarcoat anything anymore. And we basically asked this question about how many times you did that in the past week, and he said 0. And then ultimately he started thinking about it in regards to how he dealt with his kids, and what we found out, he's doing like 10 times a day, sugarcoating shit with his kids just so he could avoid having to have a true conflict. And so the reality is, like, how many times are we doing that in life with ourselves? How many times are we doing that in life to others? But more importantly, how many times are we telling ourselves yes when we should really tell ourselves no? Both on what we eat, both on what we operate, both on Facebook, all these things, because the minute that we're not saying no, we're immediately saying yes to something else. And the difference is that going to help me get what I want or not? I'm guilty of this shit just as anybody, right? And so it's a way to have a mindset overall of looking back at how many times am I sugarcoating the word no overall to these things. And specifically, when you look at no, I'm trying to figure out how to draw this out. There's basically 3 layers of kind of what goes on if you look at a target. Overall, right? We have the outside, it's the world, right? Who would that be? Give me an example. If I'm saying no to the world, things out there, what would that be?
Social media, general public. Yeah.
Okay, general public, clients, right? People we're working with. Number 2, family. Number 3 is ourself. And it all starts on the inside out, right, in regards to what we're doing. This could be from what we're eating, from what we talk about, from what we do, specifically social media, distractions, and we'll talk about this in a minute, because this ultimately keeps us from keeping our commitments, which obviously need to result on the back end. This is very important in regards to what we do in real estate all the time, too. I notice we tend to say yes when we should say no because of the guilt and shame that comes with it, right? So we'll tend to just let things slide until ultimately we're under pressure and we're feeling a negative energy from letting things slide or putting ourselves in a position where it may be that we can't dig out of. And that could be with our clients, right? So for example, with clients, how would that play out? Give me an example.
Well, like I think like Alex was saying, maybe if you know they think about making an offer, and the difference between having a strong offer and a weak one, the number that they see versus what the actual market would value it at.
Right. And the comparison of that, at least in my opinion, when I was thinking about that, is that the longer we wait to say no, or the more we sugarcoat it, obviously you want to pre-frame it the right way so you can have a clear, amicable relationship. But ultimately what we tend to do is we tend to tiptoe around the reality of the fact that, hey, look, there's no way in hell this offer for $20,000 below asking price is going to get accepted. But we want to tiptoe it, make it seem nice so that ultimately we don't really step on any toes. And so it comes down to our ability to say no. And the ability to say no comes down to the amount of certainty that you're operating in life as a man or a woman, right? So the ability or strength that you have to say no comes down to the certainty that you're operating in life in regards to a man or a woman, right? Because they come to us, they hire us so we can give them what? Advice, and give them good advice, and give them expert advice to help make good what? Decisions, right? And so if I say yes to everything, I'm a yes person, and I'm not able to stand up and say no or even guide them, right, with certainty and power, then I'm truly doing who a disservice? Them, right? And then that obviously leads back to me because they don't win, and in turn I don't win. And so it goes back to where that is. And what do you think guides our ability to say no? Besides the certainty, and obviously what allows us to ourselves? Was it? Confidence. What else?
I think in the early stages, it's the scarcity versus abundance mentality, where it's you're so happy to have somebody on the hook and somebody who wants to work with you that you don't want to even tiptoe outside of the line to fuck it up. But what you're not realizing is the trajectory of that does ultimately fuck you both. It's just but it's a scarcity thing. When you have one client and 2 clients in the beginning, you want to say yes to everything. It's a natural tendency, I think.
Yep.
So,
And it's a skill set thing. If you don't have the skill set, you can try to compensate it by being, a late or nice people, whatever, order taker, because you don't have the skill set to back up the certainty and all that.
Why do you think most agents remain that for a very long time?
Because they don't learn, they don't have those meetings.
They don't spend time to. And that's a good point. Even there, you can't just learn that just from the meetings, right? Even though we have high-level conversations here, you got to do what when you leave here? Train and reps and train and reps and train and reps and do videos every morning, right, for the 60-day acceleration. Whatever it is, it takes reps, because through that process, through the hard, grinding a little bit, is the only way you're going to sharpen that saw, so you have the ability to say no. And so that's important to not just your clients, but also yourself. And I'm going to have you all consider one thing here that was really a big aha for me, is that your ability to say no, right, comes down to one thing that leads that. It comes down to your standard. And it goes back to kind of what y'all were talking about in the beginning, is that like when you're brand new, you just want to get a deal, so you don't really have a standard. Right? But the challenge is it's a trap, because if you don't have the high standard, you're not going to attract the high client. You're not going to be able to advise somebody from a position of strength to help them get to where they want to be. More importantly, you're not going to be able to help yourself get the results you want if you're not able to have the right standard. Now, how do we do that? We focus on one thing. This is the biggest kind of takeaway from the first part here, is for you to say no, you're going to have to say yes to your standard first. For you to say no, you're going to say yes to your standard first. What do you think that means? Barrett, what's that mean?
Well, it means the minimum of what you will accept. But my biggest takeaway is no is just as powerful as that butterfly moment when you need to make a closing statement. Or when they ask you a question, and if you say yes, you not only just weaken yourself, but set yourself up for failure. Because you come that entire way to make that close, and then you get weak.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you lose that deal, not only from that point forward, from that point, but going further.
Yeah, at that point, you're in the quicksand.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's a great point. If you think about sales and psychology, and this is a way, we could go 2 different ways. We could go to like life and our own patterns and how we operate daily, right, within a minute of our own office. Or we could also go with how we're with our clients. And Barrett made a good point, is that it comes down to those pivotal moments most of the time when what? The energy's there, your heart beating's fast, you got to make this decision, you're under pressure, and they are basically taking you down a path that you shouldn't go down to. And we tend to naturally do what? One or two things. We say yes, or we just kind of sugarcoat it and make it super nice. And here's the thing. It comes down to convincing them, right? Or making a clear stand for a standard and making sure that it's clear, cut, and dry. And what I mean by that, and I wrote this down somewhere, and it says, I put it down there, it appears that I have not had a clear conversation about what I want. Or if I'm a client, it appears, and that's a relationship, whatever it is, it appears I have not had a clear conversation about, obviously, what they want or what I want in that situation. This is threefold, right? This is to ourselves, this is to our family, like we talked about, and also to our clients in the outside world. And what a lot of people tend to do is they tend to say no, no, no to themselves all the time, and then say yes, yes, yes to everyone else. And what that does, it ultimately hurts themselves, because it eventually will erode away all your power. Right? And so that's the one thing, that how much does it cost you saying no, no, no all the time to yourself, and then obviously yes, yes, yes to everyone else. And so that's where it comes back full circle, where ultimately it erodes who you are, and the circle of who you are becomes smaller, which then obviously hurts your certainty. On the flip side, people that tell themselves yes, 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 which means they're really hunting instant gratification all the time, and they want the yes, yes, yes right now, right? The quick, sporadic Facebook scroll to kind of relieve the stress of what's going on around me, versus sitting up and facing the challenge that's ahead. Natural for all of us, right? I catch myself doing it all the time. And so part of that's understanding, do I have the strength and the ability and the discipline to tell myself no when I want to go back to do basically distraction of myself, right? When we're scrolling social media, it's simply just an escape from the real right now, and allows us to kind of back off and not face what we don't want to face right now. It comes down to what's your standard in yourself and your body, right? And your discipline, what's your standard in yourself and what you'll accept in your relationships or family, whatever it is. But ultimately what I'm talking about here today is what's the standard for you that you're willing to accept in your business. And we can talk about clients all we want to, but it starts at one place, and that one place is starting with you on the inside, coming down to the daily disciplines. And I want you to track from today on, if you take anything away from this, is like, where in my business today and every day am I saying yes to shit that's not getting me paid, right? And saying no to the things that get me paid just because of my internal power. On a deeper level, or I guess a simpler level, it happens here every day between when? 9 and 11. What happens? Dials are supposed to happen, but a lot of times they don't, right? Because what happens is something comes along, and it could be as small as checking Facebook and scrolling Facebook, get distractions, or checking emails, or checking the home inspection, or emailing about the home inspection, or emailing about these showings, or scheduling showings from 2 days from now, simply to avoid the thing that we know we need to do. And that's going to be the secret to unlocking that person you become. And I wrote this down, it's important, right? I said most of what will get us what we want will only come from saying no to the wrong things, yes to the right things. Most of getting us what we want will only come from saying yes to the right things, no to the wrong things, or vice versa, right? And so we have to have a constant awareness. We talked about at the beginning that you were talking about the calendar exam from last week comes from step 1 is awareness, step 2 is actually using it, and this is the actual implementation of how many times a day am I saying yes to shit that doesn't get me paid? How many times a day am I saying yes to shit that doesn't get me paid? Over and over and over. And this will come down to, outside of work, inside of work. I see it constantly. They're pulled away by people who are outside, who aren't going to help you get paid, who are dragging away to do more things, right? That just makes a big difference. And so ultimately, that's something that's important for us as well. Does that make sense? And so it comes down to, we were talking an example, my coaching thing. One guy had a lot of stuff going on at work, and all of a sudden he got things thrown on him. He had to take his son to school. His wife threw the dog, had to take the dog to the vet to him that day, and it screwed up his whole day. All of a sudden the shit just snowballs. Then all of a sudden he's in a road rage fight with a dude on the street who about pulls a gun on him. Right? It's crazy how it snowballs. What if he comes back from just what? Saying yes to the wrong things and no, obviously, to the wrong things in that situation. And so it comes down to how are we able to do this from our standpoint of holding our standard and doing that in these 3 things. And I want you to think about one thing I wrote, which I was kind of building up to, that says, where in your life have you been tolerating, or where in your life have you been and are you tolerating a yes? Just write it down there. Everybody take a minute. Where in your life right now are you and have you been tolerating a yes when it should be a no? And I would have you consider it starts right here with you. And then it moves to family, and it moves to the outside world.